franktalks.com.
This program does not represent the views of this station and may be considered offensive to some listeners. This program may contain mature subject matter, including frank discussions of controversial topics. It is intended for mature, open-minded audiences. Discretion is highly advised. This program is entirely independently produced by and is copyrighted by Frank 2005. It is broadcast here under license.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. And I'm Frank because I have to be. On today's show, we're talking to Mr. Nick. He is the author of the book, How to Pull and Get Laid. He spoke at the Cliffsless Convention of 2006. And today, he's here on Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. How you doing there, Nick?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
All right, let's go right into the interview. First question, where were you born? And tell me a little bit about your upbringing that led you to becoming a seduction instructor.
All right. Well, I was born in Santa Barbara, California. And when I was little, well, my parents decided that it would be better to attend school in Europe, which, well, to be honest, it pretty much sucked all the way. And when I was little, I really didn't get it when it came to the other sex. And I don't think I had a girlfriend when it came to elementary school, and it wasn't until high school, in my senior year, that I had my very, very first girlfriend, all right? Now, this girlfriend I met through a friend, and, you know, it was just the usual, you know, oh, how did you meet? Oh, I met her through this person, this person. It was a very small social circle, and usually it was more or less all the other guys that were, you know, pretty much assholes and jerks and that got all the women. And I was like, well, you know, this is really weird, and, you know, what's going on? And I really didn't get it until I turned 18 and left the country again and went back to the United Kingdom. And I was out there just by myself, and, well, here I was in this worldwide world and not getting it with women. And I was like, okay, well, this really sucks. I got to do something about this. Well, and then what happened was I went to university college, and I was like, man, you got to get your stuff together. If you don't get this part of your life handled right now, then you'll never do it. And the problem was, well, where the hell do I start? You know, this isn't high school anymore. This is, fair enough, you still go to classes, but this is life. I mean, everybody can relate to this in one form or another, but now it counts. I mean, you only have this one life, and you just got to do something about it. So I was like, okay, let's have a look, because I was pretty much the nice guy that you guys would refer to. I really didn't get anywhere with women. I was okay looking, but I was really, really skinny. I was tall and skinny, so, you know, people used to call me Stretch, and, you know, I even went out a couple times, and, I mean, it really, really happened a lot that people just go up to me and were like, hey, listen, buddy, are you gay? And it wasn't really my fault, because I was, you know, I was really, really skinny, and this really started to bug me, and I was like, you know, how the hell do I get women if people start calling me gay? And even women themselves started going like, oh, listen, are you gay? And I was like, no, I'm not gay. And, you know, my confidence was just basically down in the gutter. So I just had a good look at myself, and I said to myself, you know, you got to do something, man. Started studying how to look at various stuff, and basically all the material that was out there. You know, if you go to a library and, you know, pick a book from the rack that says, you know, dating, get your dating life sorted, you know, or you go to a news agent and buy a magazine, you know, or even read Cosmo, for God's sake. There's nothing in there that really helps you. I mean, there's stuff in there that's just, you know, moral, and it does appeal to men, but it just doesn't work. And I even tried, you know, like, hey, listen, if you want to get a woman, you know, if you want to be successful with women, just, you know, pay her a lot of compliments and, you know, even offer a drink. And I even tried it, and it didn't work. So I was like, okay, well, there must be something else, because all these other guys I see day in, day out, they are getting it, and they are getting women. They're successful. They pull and they get laid all the time, and they have beautiful girlfriends. And you know, what's wrong with me?
I can totally relate to everything you're saying.
Right.
Firstly, it still surprises me that when a guy is just very, very shy or just not very good at talking with women, the first question that he'll get asked often is, "Are you gay?"
Yeah, because it wasn't really that I was shy or not. I just looked gay, to be honest. Seriously, it wasn't until that people actually started talking to me, they were like, "Oh, okay, you're cool." But I just had this image of like a gay, nice guy, and I was like, "Well, this doesn't get me anywhere. This just sucks." So I really wanted to change, not just my inner beliefs and my attitude. I also wanted to change like my outer image, because that's where mainly my confidence came from. So I just hit the gym, and I just, you know, started bulking up a little bit. Not too much. Didn't become a meathead or anything. Just a little bit to get this whole stigma away of you know, being gay looking, and changed my clothes. You know, just ditched everything that, you know, was really, you know, skin tight and all that stuff. And it just started, well, you know, this cool stuff. And the problem still was, what exactly is it that makes women attracted to men? Because I really didn't get it. I was like, okay, if you're nice to women, you know, if you pay them a lot of compliments, if you know, if you're just trying to be their friends, you know, it works with guys. If I'm nice to you, and you're nice back to me. But if you're nice to women, they are actually nice to you, but not in the way that you want them to be.
That's exactly right.
You're really not getting anywhere. And basically, in a nutshell, it took me a lot of time and effort to figure this out, mainly from other guys, because I just went out constantly. I went out 5 days at least in 1 week, and you know, I was still in class, man. I can't remember how many classes I missed. And you know, as I got better and better and better, and my attitude changed, and you know, and then mainly it was just because me hanging out with all these other guys that were, you know, they were players. There were some were good looking, some were short, some were old, but they were all really good with women, and some were still my closest buddies. And I just copied. I wouldn't say copy, but if you take a person that is already successful with women and have a good look at himself, and if you can read between the lines, you can pretty much adopt the same style and have the same success, because it's not looks.
Let me stop you here for a second. You mentioned.
I'm just rambling away, man.
No, but this is really good stuff. There's two things I want to bring up.
All right.
First of all, you were talking about going and reading those books, which turned out to be bad advice.
Well, I wouldn't say bad advice. It was nice, and it was for the purpose it served, you know, such as a magazine. It was entertaining, but if as a regular guy that is not really successful with women, you know, goes out and uses those techniques and tips, it's not going to work. So in terms of best practice, forget it, man.
The second question I wanted to ask you is, you said you went out 5 times a week?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Where did you go?
Just clubs or coffee shops, malls. I mean, just social gatherings, anywhere you could imagine. And a lot of times I went there by myself.
Did that help you more than if you went with a friend?
Well, in the beginning I was like, maybe I should go with a friend so it doesn't look awkward or weird if you just appear, you know, by yourself. But then some of my buddies are black, and they go out by themselves so many times that I was like, hey, listen, if they can do it, I can do it too. And this is so true. Black people go out a lot of times just by themselves because they know they're going to meet somebody anyway. And white people usually don't do that. And I was like, well, why not?
Nick, we got to take a commercial break. You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, "Yes, dear, you are absolutely right"? Does wife or girlfriend mean boring and dull to him? Ladies, don't you wish that he knows what you mean when you ask him if you look fat? Then you need to buy him the book, Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.
Honest, frank approaches, trusted professional conduct, timely taboo topics, and the most eclectic ensemble of interview guests ever produced. Listen to Frank Talks to learn about the different sides of the human spirit. Be sure to visit our website at www.franktalks.com for the most updated information and the latest downloads of programs just like the one you're listening to now.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. In studio today, on the phone, we have Mr. Nick. He runs the website www.Playboyskool, school is spelled SKOOL.com. He's the author of the book, How to Pull and Get Laid. He also appeared at the Cliffs List Convention in 2006. Welcome to studio, Nick.
Hey, what's up?
All right. During the break, we had talked a little bit. Let's talk about approaching. You went out 5 times a week while you were in school just to master the basics, just to get a handle on your love life. When you went into those coffee shops and clubs and social gatherings, what would you say if you saw a girl there that you wanted to approach?
Well, it's really important to note here that the first revelation I had was you shouldn't be nice to women. It's all about teasing, okay? Now, if you go out to a woman and say, "Hi, you know, I noticed you from over there. I think you're really nice, and you look pretty. Can I offer you a drink?" That's just being nice. And the woman go like, "Oh, that was so sweet and cute, but I'm sorry. Now I have a boyfriend." That was my main approach before I started getting the hang of it. And then I changed everything to a more cheeky and cocky and a little bit more arrogant approach, to be honest. So if there was a girl, it's a good example. Well, you know, let's say a coffee shop or something. There's something that I have at the moment that's you guys can use right now or off the bat. It's something that's called a default line. Okay. Now, if you can't think of anything that sounds cocky and a little bit cheeky, you can say to them that they go like, "Oh, you're such an arrogant jerk," but they're laughing. Then
Right.
you have to pull this default line from your head. Because if you can't think of anything, then you just got to use what you've used before, right?
Right.
Now, the best way to do that is to ask them for an opinion, but not just anything, Don't go like, "Hey, listen, what do you think of, should I buy a blue T-shirt or a green T-shirt?" That sucks. They go like, "Oh, I don't know." This is one of the things I use all the time. I go like, hey, listen, I need to feel my opinion here. Is it true that women can only put on mascara when their mouth is open? And they go like, "How do you know?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's true, blah, 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 blah." And I already sets the mood for your conversation because, to be honest, it doesn't really matter what you start a conversation with. It's how you follow up.
So you can pretty much say anything? Is that
Well,
what
it's not just anything as long as you don't do anything stupid. See, the problem is that all these guys, well, the nice guys, use most of the same approach and pickup lines. So when he go like, "Hi, I think you're pretty, can I offer you a drink?" Because she's heard it before, it automatically triggers something in her that goes like, "Oh, watch out, nice guy, boring, loser, nerd. She's just going to waste my time." But if you use something unique or something spontaneous, like, for example, you're in a coffee shop, she drops something, and you immediately go like, "Hey, you, hey, listen, would you please stop throwing things at me?" Just something quick, right?
Right.
And he usually gets loud. She doesn't know what's coming.
One of the things about your particular form of game is that you are very, very smooth when you go into a club and you go, or a coffee shop and you do your pickup. Smooth, S-M-O-O-T-H. From what I've seen of you, it all comes down to acting cool, being smooth, and not ever presenting yourself as a weak person. Is this about right?
Yeah, more or less, yeah. Yeah, you're correct.
All right, what do you think some of the characteristics of a really smooth guy are?
I would say you got to get the basics down, such as making a woman laugh the right way. You can't be a clown. It has to come off very slick, and you got to be able to bust a woman's balls no matter how hot she is, and pretty much just not care what happens. But at the same time, you can't... One of the characteristics of being smooth is you got to know how to go from A to B. So you got to know your steps. Now this is what happens with me. Once I arrive at a certain point in my game plan, I hardly ever lose. So if I can get a woman's number the way I want, I pretty much know she's going to end up by my bed. All right. Now it's the same thing right in the beginning. If you know all those little steps, how to go from one step to the next, when you're talking to a woman, that's how being smooth. That's how you're being smooth. But you have to do it slowly. You can't just punch through it. You know, so you have to relax a little bit. You got to give him. I know it's a bad word if you say you got to give her a little space, but don't be a tryhard. Don't be pushy. Don't be needy and clingy.
So let me ask you something. How do you convey interest to a woman without giving up your power?
What I mean by showing interest without losing power, like you show her that you're interested in her.
Yeah.
You don't go like, oh, I think you're hot. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that sort of thing where you really want that particular girl.
Well, I do the exact opposite, all right? The thing is, if you know how to create attraction, you can tell her, get out of here. I don't want to see you anymore. Go back to the other side of the room, all right? Now, basically, in terms of words, you just told her to, well, get the hell out of here, you know. If I told you, well, get the hell out of the other room, I don't want to speak to you anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a male's brain kicks and goes like, oh, this is logic, I better get the other side of the room, yada, yada, yada. But you're not giving up your power. But with women, the exact opposite happens. You definitely show that you're not giving up power, but you are. The thing is, you don't really need to show interest. That's not the point. The point is, she's got to chase you.
So as long as she's chasing you.
Well, that's the whole point, isn't it? If a woman gets attracted to you, and if you present yourself as a challenge, and she keeps chasing you, then you can do pretty much whatever you want. You could just lean back and even walk out and then come back later, and she's going to come up to you, hey, where you been?
I want to talk about humor, because you had brought this up before.
Right.
When you said you have to use humor but not be a clown. How do you make the distinction?
There's a wrong form of humor. That's what you know The Simpsons, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Homer J, he's funny. I mean, he's absolutely hilarious, but he's not sexy. Now, if you want to be a goofball, that's fine. I got a lot of friends that make women laugh, but they're just complete goofballs, and act like girlfriends, and women think it's funny, but at the end of the day, they go like, well, he's funny, but I'm just not attracted to him. Now, what you got to do is you got to be able to make her laugh and smile, but she's got to get attracted. Now, one of the main things is you got to bust her balls. You got to be cheeky. You got to even accuse her of chasing you or just wanting you for your body. And this is one of the main differences, that forget about humor first and foremost. You got to create attraction by busting her balls and just teasing her. Seriously, treat her like your little sister, or like your little cousin, or like this little kid, you have to take care, and you can just hug and kiss, and you go like, oh, it's all right, I'll take care of you. I'm like your little brother.
Well,
just make fun of her.
Isn't there a danger, though, for guys who are just starting out, that they want to start teasing a girl, and they end up going...
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And they end up going too far, and they end up really making her mad and maybe even hurting her feelings?
Yeah, this is what's going to happen. It will take a couple weeks to test your limits. You know, there's a fine line, and if you cross it, she's going to get either angry, or she's going to go like, you're an idiot, or, you know, it's just going to get up and leave. But if you're starting out, trust me, you're going to trip over your, you know, ding-ding a couple times, no matter what. But as long as you don't keep making the same mistakes, you're learning.
One more question before we go to our next commercial break. It's still about teasing. What is off limits when it comes to teasing? What is something you will not tease a girl about?
Well, here's my little problem. Sometimes I just don't know any limits. But I really get away with a lot of stuff I would never thought I'd get away with. But no, seriously, there are hardly any limits. It just depends what kind of style you play, or, you know, how far and how fast you want to play it with. We can talk about it after the break if you want.
That sounds great. We're going to go to a commercial break, and we'll be back right after this.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. Guys, do you think that your father has a great sense of style? Are blue jeans and a clean t-shirt your idea of dressy? Then you need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. Does 1982 live in your closet? Do you own clothes that have more holes in them than a slice of Swiss cheese? Then you need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. Look at the contents of your closet. If you think that navy blue and dark green are your colorful clothes, then you need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. When you pick up your date for that night out on the town, does she cringe at your wardrobe? If you think that ladies might wonder if you're colorblind, or if your girlfriend has to remind you to wear a clean item of clothing, then you definitely need the Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar. The Personalized Symbolic Peacocking Seminar and telephone consultations, only available at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. What would your life be like if you knew exactly what to say and do with women? This book is for the guy that simply wants to learn how to handle women's tests by addressing her emotional needs. By this, you create the type of attraction that will make her see you as the one she was destined to be with. This book will teach you how to get the woman you want and how to keep her. Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test is the Rosetta Stone for men to understand exactly what a woman means when she speaks and how to respond. Is that worth changing your life forever? Buy this book at franktalks.com now.
Would you like to sponsor Frank Talks? Visit www.franktalks.com and contact Frank, because he has to be. Sponsorships are always welcome, whether it's prize giveaways, parting gifts for our guests, studio equipment, accessories for the Frankmobile, or a host of other wonderment. Help Frank Talks make the world a better place, one interview at a time.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles, and I'm Frank because I have to be. In studio on the phone today we have Mr. Nick. He runs the website www.playboyskool.com. School is spelled S-K-O-O-L. He's the author of the book, How to Pull and Get Laid. He also appeared at the Cliffs List Convention 2006, and today he's here on Frank Talks. How you doing there, Nick?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
All right, we had started talking about the limits when teasing a girl. Is there anything off limits? And over the break we were talking about how a lot of your specialty is about pushing limits. So
yeah, as you mentioned earlier, like one of my distinctive approaches to the whole dating thing is I'm pretty much, you know, your regular bad boy out there. I mean, I can get away with stuff now that I would have never thought I would get away with 10 years ago. And, you know, some of the stuff I do is just, I mean, for the, you know, average guy out there, it just sounds incredible, but it's not. It's actually really easy. I can give you an example. What I used to do was, I used to be in a club, and I was just like, you know, pulling girls left and right and just making out. And I was actually wanting to see how fast I could do it, you know, in terms of kissing girls. And I was like, I think when I was talking to a girl for like, I don't know, 1 minute or 2 minutes, I mean, like really, really short, I was like, close your eyes for a second. And then obviously they know what's coming, and they're going to go like, well, I'm not going to close my eyes. You're just going to kiss me. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to kiss you. Just close your eyes. And that went on for about 3 times, and then they eventually closed their eyes, and I just kissed them, and they pulled back, and they were like, oh, but you said you're not going to kiss me. I'm like, I know. Just close your eyes, and you just start making out. Or in the middle of conversation, you go like, hey, stick your tongue out for a second. And they go like, why? Just stick your tongue out. And then you start sucking on the tongue. And you really, really do get away with it now listen, if you do it right from the beginning, right? You can't go all charming and paying compliments and then just go all bad boy and go like, hey, listen, I want to kiss you, stick your tongue out. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right, you're talking about...
It's all about the attitude. It's really all about your approach. It's not really what you say. It's all about body language. It's all about subliminal messages that... Listen, women know what you're about. They know why you're talking to them, all right? And I wouldn't say I prey on them, but I use it. Because I don't really bullshit around. I just go like, hey, what's up? And I'm just present this alpha male that just doesn't know any boundaries. And at the end of the day, women just, they know you're the dominant guy, and they go like, oh, well, okay. Basically, they're looking for that guy. A lot of women do. They just are sick of all these wussbacks out there that just pussyfoot around, the issue, and now I'll just use that.
Now, is this something that works only, let's say, where you're at now in London, England, or have you been able to use this in other parts of the world, in the United States and Canada?
It works everywhere.
And the whole idea is to come up with this bad boy image, just to walk in there from the beginning. Now, my question to you is this. A lot of guys who are starting out haven't yet developed their seductive bad boy persona. So they're going to go out there, they're going to try some of the stuff, and it's not going to work.
Oh, definitely not. Listen, if you're just starting out, and if you want to do this bad boy approach, trust me, you're going to bomb. The first couple of weeks are going to be agony. Seriously. Now, what I used to do was, because I knew, I came to the conclusion that being nice to women and being, the best friend and all that stuff just didn't work, so I just turned the opposite. I turned into this asshole jerk who, just was basically being mean to women, and it did work, okay? I'm not going to lie. Being an asshole works when you're dealing with women, all right? But it wasn't really something that I was proud of, or, I didn't want to be just a jerk that's treating women badly and stuff, so I had to find some kind of a middle ground here.
So what did you stop doing? I mean, what does the jerk do that the bad boy persona you have does not do?
Well, basically, a jerk takes what he wants. He doesn't care about women's feelings. He doesn't. I mean, he's just very, very selfish. All right, and even jerks and macho assholes, they even beat women sometimes, and that's just not me. But I can still say I'm still a little bit selfish. I put my interests before the one of women. If I'm not in a relationship, all right, if you're in a relationship, that's a bit different. But basically, if I'm out hustling or just trying to get girls, I just go for whatever I want and just take it. I mean, it's there. She's there waiting to be approached. She wants to talk to guys, and I mean, if you don't do it, then it's going to be the guy next to you, and then just go up there and claim your territory.
Do you scan these girls out before you approach them? Do you pick and choose which ones you're going to approach, or do you just approach any girl that looks like she might be interested in an approach?
Well, I certainly don't go for the ugly ones, if that's what you mean.
It was more along the line.
The thing is, it's all a numbers game, all right? If you're in a club and there's 10 hot girls, then it's not going to work with every single one, because, some have a bad day, some are married, some really do have a boyfriend and don't want to meet anybody, or, whatever the reason may be. But, out of 3 or 4 approaches, you definitely get a couple phone numbers. It's not really that hard, but if this is one of the biggest mistakes I used to do before, right? If there's this one girl in the club and you just focus all your energy on this particular girl, like in high school, there was this one girl you had a crush on, and you were like, oh, I don't know what I'm going to do. Should I ask her out on a date, or how should I go and talk to her? Then you're definitely going to lose, because you can't just focus all your energy on this single target, if that's what I mean. You gotta keep your options open. If you want to hustle, then, you know, maybe talk to her and maybe just leave her alone for a couple seconds and just go to the next one. But you really have to cut. You shouldn't just go for whatever girl is interested in you and just go for that one. You really have to go for those girls that you are interested in, but don't just stick to one.
What do you tell the guy who wants to make a change in his life in this respect?
Yeah.
But he's afraid to push his own boundaries. He's afraid of pushing the limits because he doesn't want to make a mistake.
What advice would I give him?
Yeah.
Well, this is what I see a lot of guys do when they're just starting out. Well, the number one question I get is, how do I get this girl? How do I get this girl from my work? Or how do I get this girl that works at the coffee shop and all that? And the question really isn't how do I get this girl. The question is, how do I get girls in general? And until you know or actually can do that, then there's no point in telling you how you get this particular girl, because at the end of the day, you're still going to, you know, screw it up. So what you have to do is you have to get out and you have to prepare to take some losses, because you will. You will make mistakes, and this is the only way you will learn. Okay? Now this is going to be a hard lesson. What I can do is I can tell you what's going to happen. I can tell you if you do this, all right, it will work. Now you take it and you go out there, like, I'll just give you some light, and it's going to get a positive response, and you go like, wow, this really, really, really works. What do I do next?
Yeah.
Okay, now this is the thing. If I give you a line, there's a whole technique behind it, and with any technique out there, you know, you have to learn it and you have to keep practicing. It just doesn't come overnight. And for a lot of people who are starting out, this is hard to accept. So be prepared for, like, let's say 2-3 weeks. Just talk to them and keep practicing, because you have to prepare. The 3 weeks are going to be pain. But after that, until you get the hang of it, hey, trust me, it's going to be heaven.
I got another question for you. You talked about how you went from not getting it with women, not being good, to reaching a point where you were actually successful. Can you give me an idea as to the amount of time it took from the time you made the decision, I have to get good, to the time where you reached a point where you felt, I'm now good?
Well, here's the thing. I just broke up with my girlfriend back then, and I moved back to another country, you know, and I was like, man, you know, I really want to have a girlfriend. And when it comes to stuff, I'm really, really persistent, and I'm like, I just want to do it. And I would say that I was lucky, because within the first couple weeks or months, I met some dudes that were good players, okay? They really did get it. And I was like, hey, listen, guys, you know, what's your secret? And they couldn't really explain to me what it actually was, but just observing what they actually did was enough for me to get the hang of it and just grasp the basic concepts. All right.
So but are we talking here? It took a few months, a couple of years?
No. This is after a couple. Well, this is about 3 months after I broke up with my girlfriend. All right.
Okay.
Now this isn't me getting good just yet. This is me just discovering what is possible out there. I saw these guys. Well, one of the first things that I noticed was, don't be nice, you know, just tease women, and just don't be a jerk, but just bust the balls, right? And I was like, it didn't really stick into I didn't get it. I was like, man, how the hell does that work? Why does it work? What if I do the same? Do I get the same results? And from then on, I would say it took me about, I don't know. Well, to be honest, it took me 3 years to get really good at this. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is from being not good at all to being, well, really good at it. And you keep developing all the time, because there's a game plan how you go from A to B. A being approaching a woman, and, well, on the other end you have where you actually sleep with her and, you know, go in a relationship with her or not. And there are a lot of steps in between. And it's not until you make a mistake at every single step that you actually know or figure out by yourself what works and what not.
You know, that's an amazing...
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I love what you just said. It's not until you make mistakes at every level that you're going to find out what works.
Because otherwise otherwise you never know the difference. If you have all the problem, well, what's one? This is one that we want to talk. I don't know if you want to talk about it now or after break.
You know, let's take a commercial break. But when we come back, I want to readdress this issue because I think this is a very key concept. So we're going to go to commercial. You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Ladies, is your boyfriend an adult male virgin? Is he so shy and insecure that you need to take the initiative, but you really wish he would just be the man and take the lead? Does he think holding hands and sweet cheek kisses is fulfilling? Does he think the G-spot is the name of a new club? Ladies, if his idea of a night of fun means you get to be player number 2 in his latest video game, then get him the gift that will give you both pleasure. The Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Pimping Your Pad Seminars. Decorating your bachelor apartment. Your home and the way you live is an extension of your sexuality. Frank will show you, with pictures of his own home, what women look for that identifies you as a potential partner. Frank looks at everything from theme rooms to furniture placement and space management to pets to the organization of your bathroom to get women to want to spend the night. The Pimping Your Pad Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Only available at franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminar and Telephone Consultations. Guys, if the only breast you ever touched was in a bucket of chicken, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only thing you've licked recently has been your fingers to turn the pages of a book, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only female body part you are familiar with wears a cape, can fly, or has superpowers, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If you think the G-spot is the name of a new club, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the words missionary conjures up images of guys in long robes, you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. If the only sensation your fingers have had are pressing the buttons on your remote control, then you need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Do you know what it means when a woman asks you up to her place for coffee? If you think that she is thirsty for caffeine, then you definitely need the Adult Male Virgin Seminar. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys become men.
You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. In studio today, we're here with Nick. He runs the website www.playboyskool.com. Playboyskool, the word school is spelled S-K-O-O-L. He's the author of a book, How to Pull and Get Laid. He also appeared at the Cliffs List Convention 2006, and he's in studio with us by phone from London, England. Nick, welcome back.
Hey.
You had said something in the last interview segment just before we went to commercial. I think it's something very important. The fact is that a guy has to make mistakes at every single level of game, from the time you approach to the time you get you have sex with her, and even after sex, getting into a relationship. So many guys make mistakes along the way. It's part of the process, but they get discouraged. They quit. What do you have to say to guys in that situation?
Well, basically never give up. But it's just like in any area of life, if you quitters quit, ain't it? And if you want to really do something, if you really want to get good at this, you have to stick with it. You know, you will experience setbacks, and you will get turned down, you will get rejected, you will make your mistakes, but you need to make them, because that's how we all learn. As long as you don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again, you're charging forward.
But how does somebody stay motivated? What can you tell a guy who's like ready to quit because he's just facing, he keeps making mistake after mistake, new mistakes, he still feels like, what's the point? It's too hard. How does that guy stay motivated?
Well, I had I think it was I got a fan mail from some guy that pretty much tried everything that he could imagine and just failed all the way. I mean, he's pretty much labeled himself as the hopeless case, all right? And what I did was I met up with him once and, you know, just hang out, have a beer, and had a look at him. And it turns out that he was missing one very, very important step, and he really thought that there was nothing wrong with it, that he did everything right, and he still failed, so he was the hopeless case. And it's just not true. If you hit the brick wall, all right, there's a way around it. You have to try something else, all right? I can't remember. See, it's like this, right? If life hands you a lemon, make lemonade, all right? There's always something you can do about it. And if you don't, you can even sleep over it, you know, just take a break or, you know, just do something else and just lay back. But you can't take this thing really, really seriously, because if you do, the game is going to eat you up.
Let's talk about some specific game questions. I got some emails that I forwarded to you.
Oh, yeah.
So let's look at some of these questions we got from listeners who sent us some emails. The first question: are there any routines or games that are really good to use in loud environments? And how do you make routines and games work in loud environments? I'm guessing they're talking about clubs.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Okay, here's what I learned. If you're in a loud environment, all right, and fun games, take her somewhere where it's quieter. All right, so just a lounge, or I don't care. It could even be a hallway, because you have to remember one thing. All right. You have to prepare yourself to be able to talk loud, all right? But the basic game plan doesn't change. There's nothing that will alter your routines or your games or whatever the hell you do to go from A to B, all right? If this is one of the techniques I used, or I came across. If you're on the dance floor, right? Mm-hmm. Now, it's really, really, really loud. And it's so hard. You can't talk to girls because it's so loud. And if you try to approach them and, you know, open your mouth, then they go like, well, I didn't get it. All right. Now I use that. Now whenever somebody goes like, well, I don't know what you're saying. All right. Just make some little hand moves to your ear and that tells her, well, I don't have a clue what you're saying. I don't hear. And then you grab your hand, all right, and just walk away to the bar. And then they go like, okay, what did you say? Now, this is very important. Most people forget. They just stay in that environment where it's so loud. If you're standing next to the speaker, just walk away. Just take her, grab her by the hand, and just walk over to the bar. She's going to follow you. Trust me. If you go, hey, listen, I don't know what you're saying. Here, come here for a second. Okay, just pull her away.
So the answer is you don't run routines or play games in a loud environment. You get her to...
I don't have any unique ones that I would use, particularly in a loud environment. Just because it's loud, I use exactly the same stuff. If I'm standing next to the speaker, or if it's in a club, I do precisely the same. I just talk louder. So be prepared. But this is your choice. If you want to go to clubs, that's fine. But if you want to hustle on a dance floor, I got some cool techniques. But if you're just in your regular bar, then just get closer to the ear. Just talk louder. You have to be prepared for that. Nothing changes. There's no perfect routines or perfect games you can use, like hand moves and shit. Well, here's a good one you use, right? If it's really loud and you catch eye contact, and just wave. And then when she waves back, just go, hey, listen, come here for a second. But just do the hand movements, right? If you can't use your voice, use hand signals.
All right, another question. How do you pull girls when they're with a group of girls? How do you isolate the one girl away from her group of friends?
You mean the initial drag her away from them, or how do you actually approach the whole group and keep talking?
I think the question was, how do you separate...
Just isolating the girl.
Yeah, how do you isolate the girl from her friends?
Well, it's pretty simple. All you go is like, hey, listen, what is... Well, it just has to come off natural, right? There's the simplest thing in the world is to just ignore her friends and just keep talking to the one you want. All right, and just turn your back on the other ones. I mean, there's no need to just drag her away to another place. You can stay right there and just keep talking. Or what else you can do is you can grab her hand and go to her friends. So listen, I'm just going to talk to her for a little while, all right? It's going to be 2 seconds. and then just grab her hand and go like, hey, listen, come here for a second. And then just drag her away. All right? Now, in my opinion, you don't really need to drag her away too much from her friends if you want, because there's no need unless you want to make out on the couch. But for starters, just take her hand and go to her friend and say, listen, I'm going to see your girlfriend for a second. It's going to be 2 seconds.
Okay.
And just walk away.
But what happens when you, let's say, take the girl away from her group of friends? Don't the group of friends come back to you and try to interrupt your conversation with her?
There's 2 things that can happen, right? They usually just come back to check on her girlfriend if everything is okay, right? And, you know, a woman is usually not really going to go, oh, I have to go back to my friends, you know, just now, unless she really feels uncomfortable. Now, this is not a question of isolating the girl, you know, the actual isolation, but you did something wrong at the beginning. I see a lot of guys saying, oh, I didn't isolate the girl properly because of this, or you should have used that technique. No, it's not. You just did it wrong from the beginning. Maybe there was not enough attraction there. Maybe her friends thinks you're a prick, or, I mean, it could be anything. It's actually you screwing it up in the beginning.
All right, now how is this different if, let's say, the girl, and this is our 3rd question from the email, she is with another girl, so there's only 2 of them sitting there, 2 girls, 2 best friends.
The thing, if you don't have a partner or a wingman, you can't separate them, okay, unless the other girl just walks away. Okay, this happens a lot. If you're talking to one girl, the other one's just going to disappear. But let's just say they're together and they're not going to leave. What's going to happen is, don't separate them, okay? Now here's a neat little trick what's this again? You're going to say to her friend, like, let's say first of all, don't separate them. Just stand next to her and just keep talking, right? Because if you separate them, they're going to go like, oh, no, we're together or whatever, right? You can't just leave one girl by herself. But what usually works, you can play one off to each other, as in, you turn your back to the one you really want, and you lean over to her friend and just say, hey, listen, me and your friend are going to meet tomorrow in town. Is that okay with you? Or, hey, listen, me and your friend, we're going to go, I wouldn't say date, but me and my friend are going to meet tomorrow for coffee. Is that okay with you? And then usually she's going to go like, okay. And then you just go back to the one you really want, and you say, okay, well, you know, let's talk about it. Or just keep talking. But really, don't separate it. There's no point in isolating, you know, the 2 separate. Seriously, I'm just rambling off the page here. Everything is possible. I've made out with girls in front of her friends. I've done everything, right? It's possible. You don't need to isolate a 2-set. Just ignore the other one.
So just to summarize here, if the girl is with a larger group, you can isolate her simply by going in direct, saying, hey, I'm just going to come over here, I just want to talk to you, I'm going to talk to your friend a bit. But if the girl is alone with another girl, so it's just the 2 of them, don't separate them, work them together.
You can just ignore the friend.
Just ignore the friend.
Well, then there's the problem of her pulling it away, so you have to keep her just as busy as, you know, as your game allows it to be. As, you know, in other words, that her friend is not going to drag the other one away. Okay, so you have to involve them to some degree, right? Right.
Nick, we've run out of time. I'm getting the signal that we got to get going over here. It's been absolutely wonderful talking to you again.
No problem, man.
And let's give your website just one more time. It's www.playboyskool.com. School spelled S-K-O-O-L. He is the author of the book, How to Pull and Get Laid. He also was featured on the Cliffs List Convention for 2006, and he's going to be on those DVDs. Nick, thank you very much for being on Frank Talks.
No problem. It's always a pleasure.
All right. You're listening to Frank Talks, Pleasures and Lifestyles. I'm Frank because I have to be. Good night, everybody.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. Ladies, does your man squash your inner vixen? When you ask him to repeat what you have just said to him, does he look at you like a deer caught in the headlights? Does he think that leaving the game on while you talk to him is a good idea? Is his favorite phrase, yes dear, you are absolutely right? Does wife or girlfriend mean boring and dull to him? Ladies, don't you wish that he knows what you mean when you ask him if you look fat? Then you need to buy him the book, Everything Out of Her Mouth is a Test, a man's guide to the emotional needs of women. On sale now at franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching available in person, by phone, and by Skype. For singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles, franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com. Yeah, get by with help from Frank Talks. I get by with little help from Frank Talks. Time to try a little help from Frank Talks. Does it cost a lot of money? It's the best rate going around. Could it cost a lot of money? Yes, we're certain, just read the reviews. Frank knows his stuff, and Frank's got goods. Good love can soon come to you.